If you're a mid-level to C-suite leader who wants to own your growth and figure out your next small, brave move to achieve your leadership goals, you are in the right place. Welcome to the Small Brave Moves podcast, a weekly deep dive on how to be braver in leadership and in life for exceptional results. I'm your host, Nicole Bianchi, best-selling author, certified master executive coach, NSA certified speaking professional, chief bravery officer, and tough talk expert. If you're ready to become a better, braver, and more authentic leader, let's dive in. Hello, friends and brave leaders. Welcome back to the Small Brave Moves podcast. In today's episode, we're going to explore one of the most challenging yet essential conversations you'll have as a leader. It's the ask. Whether it's asking for help, permission, or acknowledgement, this conversation requires courage and clarity. Let's start with a question. When was the last time you had to ask for something important? Whether it was asking for help with a project, seeking acknowledgement for your work, or even requesting permission to take time off. These moments can be nerve-wracking, and as leaders, we often feel the pressure to have all of the answers and solve problems on our own. And here's the truth. Asking for what you need isn't a weakness, it's a strength. In fact, the ask is one of the most important conversations in the 5 Tough Talks framework because it taps into deep vulnerability. Asking for help, permission, or acknowledgement requires us to step outside our comfort zone, admit that we don't have everything figured out, and trust the other person with that information. Let me share with you a personal story that highlights the power of making an ask. Years ago, when I was a director of HR, I discovered that my compensation was significantly lower than my peers in my work and in my industry. I had been with the company for a long time, and over the years, I'd consistently received high performance ratings. However, as I was hiring new people, I realized just how much I was underpaid. The gap between my salary and the market average was alarming. But like so many of us, I hesitated. I was so nervous about having this conversation and really just unsure of how it would be received. It's hard to advocate for ourselves. For me, it's easy to advocate for everyone else. But I knew I had to gather my courage and make the ask. So I did my research, I collected my performance reviews, salary comparisons, market data, and I asked to meet with my leader. It wasn't an easy conversation. I was nauseous. I was nervous. But I presented the information clearly and waited for his response. And much to my surprise, he hadn't realized the gap and thanked me for bringing it to his attention. He said, "Give me a couple of weeks to look closer at this and I'll come back to you." And he actually came back with a plan to adjust my salary over the next year, ensuring I reached market level, and it was a win for both of us. So why did we avoid the ask? Well, whether it's asking for help, permission, or acknowledgement, there's often this fear of rejection or appearing weak. Yet the truth is, asking for help doesn't make you less capable. It just makes you more human. And a recent study by OnePoll showed that 1 in 4 Americans are willing to ask for help before starting something new. That's only 25%. And half of them wait until the situation becomes so overwhelming and may feel that they are held back from achieving their goals because they're trying to just do everything on their own. Well, there are 3 main types of ask conversations. Think about it this way: asking for help, asking for permission, asking for acknowledgement. And each of these require bravery and careful positioning. So let's break down each one. The first one, asking for help. This might be the toughest ask because it requires you to admit you need support. And for leaders, this can be especially daunting. We're often expected to have all the answers, so asking your team for help can feel like you're undermining your own authority. Or a common one I hear from leaders is, "My team is just so busy. I feel really bad asking for help," or asking for help and delegating. But remember, asking for help builds trust and creates opportunities for growth. The number 2 one, asking for permission. This type of ask can be difficult because it often feels like you're relinquishing control. But asking for permission isn't about giving up control, it's about respecting relationships. So I once coached a manager who was facing personal challenges at home, and he had an important business trip scheduled, yet was so worried that postponing that trip would negatively affect his career. He was in sales. And for days, he avoided asking his leader, his boss, for permission to delay the trip. Yet when he finally had the conversation, his boss was understanding, and not just understanding, but encouraged him to focus on his personal matters first, that they would move him to a trip later on in the next month. And by making that ask, the manager maintained his integrity and built an even stronger trust with his leader. So, asking for acknowledgement. When you ask for acknowledgement, it's not about seeking agreement, it's about ensuring that the other person understands your perspective. I worked with a leader who was kept out of important communications within her university. And after realizing this was impacting her ability to perform, she bravely asked her boss for acknowledgement of the issue. Her boss, thinking she was helping by not overwhelming her with too much information, realized that she needed to adjust the situation once it was brought to light. This conversation, though uncomfortable, allowed for better alignment moving forward. And here's the other thing. We can't fix things we don't know about. So had she not made that ask, her leader would maybe never have known it was a challenge for her. Now, how do you make the ask effectively? Well, it all comes down to being brave, which is an acronym for the formula I've designed to be most effective. When you're making the ask, I want you to walk through the BRAVE framework for positioning it. Each one of the leaders I shared as examples earlier used this framework when they went to make their ask. So number 1, B, background information. Before making the ask, provide context. Give the person a brief explanation of the situation, just enough to set the stage, but not too much that you dilute your main points. This helps them understand where you're coming from. Number 2, research-based case. It's time to present some facts and data to support your ask, whether it's compensation data, performance metrics, or maybe even feedback from others. Having some concrete evidence strengthens your case. Number 3, A, advocate and make the ask. Be clear, be direct. Advocate for yourself with confidence, and when you make the ask, keep it concise. A single sentence is often all it takes. And if you're looking for some inspiration, you can use the conversation starters. Number 4, V, voice is quiet and trust the silence. This is critical. Once you've made the ask, stop talking. Many people feel the need to fill that silence, but let the other person process and respond. Trust the power of the silence. If you're going to go to the effort to make a powerful ask, you need to let them process it right then and there. Number 5, end with action. As we do with every tough talk, we end with action. Always end with a clear next step. Whether it's a follow-up meeting or an action item, make sure both of you know what's expected next and who's going to take what. Let me share a quick example of how I've used this brave approach when asking for permission. Well, a few years ago, I had an incredible opportunity to take an extended trip to Italy with my husband. The challenge? I was scheduled to present at 2 major conferences during this time, and I didn't want to lose the opportunities. Yet, I also didn't want to interrupt our once-in-a-lifetime trip. So I used the BRAVE framework. Number 1, background information. I shared the situation to the event organizers that it was our 25th wedding anniversary, and we were taking this long-anticipated trip. Number 2, research-based case. I proposed a solution. My business partner, who was just as qualified, could present in my place, ensuring a seamless experience for all attendees. Number 3, I advocated and made the ask. I asked them to allow my business partner to step in for me during this conference, this one time, while I committed to being available in the future years. And I did this via Zoom so I could have a face-to-face quick conversation with them. Number 4, voice is quiet, trust that silence. Well, after making the ask, I stayed quiet as hard as it was and waited for their response. Number 5, end with action. We agreed. They were so kind, caring, and enthusiastic for the opportunity that was in front of me, and had no problem aligning with my business partner to take over these two engagements. They appreciated the transparency. And not only did it work out, but they also rebooked me for the following year. Making the ask is about bravery, and it's also about clarity and respect. So whether you're asking for help, permission, or acknowledgement, using the BRAVE framework will give you the confidence to approach these conversations with poise and ease. So here's my challenge for you. I want you to think of someone in your life, whether it's a colleague, a boss, a spouse, a friend, and reflect on what you might need to ask them. Maybe it's help on a project, or maybe it's acknowledgement of something you've been working on. I want you to use the BRAVE framework and take that small brave step and make the ask conversation. It's one thing to learn about it. It's another to immediately apply it. And that's my challenge for you. Even if it's just a small ask, I want you to practice the framework and put it into action. Because when you do that, it becomes the new way of doing things. And I'd love to hear from you. Please share how it went. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Small Brave Moves. I hope you found today's conversation around the ask valuable and inspiring. So inspiring that you're ready to make that first move. Remember, bravery in leadership starts with small, brave moves. And sometimes all it takes is asking for what you need. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone that could benefit from this message today. I would be so grateful. And until next time, stay brave and keep leading with courage. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Small Brave Moves podcast. If you're wanting to take this work even deeper, I'm here to help. From engaging in inspirational keynote speeches to transformational coaching and workshops for leaders and teams, page-turning books, online courses, and enlightening leadership development retreats. There are so many ways that we can work together to take your leadership to the next level. For more information, check out the show notes, and let's do this together, one small brave move at a time. See you next week.